Yeah, you have found your way to the Deep Shots Monday night pregame. This is our very special holiday edition. One of us is dressed in seasonally appropriate attire. I'm Andy. He's Dalton Del Don. We're going to answer any and all questions that you may have to the best of our modest ability. We will also discuss the events of Week 16, and there were many of them. It is my sincere hope that all of you yacht clubbers have navigated the pitfalls of the fantasy semis, that you will comfortably advance to championship week. Dalton, how we doing? Your team is playing tonight. How many of your fantasy squads are moving on?
We're doing well, but although I apologize for underdressing, I didn't get the Christmas memo. I enjoy your
Who needs
outfit.
to send out a memo when it's Christmas week? Whatever.
I know.
You're
Merry
right. You're
Christmas,
right.
all happy holidays.
HR should have sent out something. I'll
No doubt.
speak to
Yeah, that's what I'm blaming. Things are good. I have a lot. I was just telling you this backstage, but to bit to repeat, I have a lot of fantasy matchups on the line tonight. Unfortunately, I'm facing CMC, and I have CMC. I have a lot of Jonathan Taylor, and I'm a Niners fan, so it'll be out of control trying to figure out who and what I'm rooting for. The kids are always like, "What team?" I'm like, I have to remind them, "No, Chloe, it's what players we're rooting for," and that'll be especially confusing when the Niners, with the top, the Niners suddenly control their own destiny. They could have the 1 seed. But I am not overly confident about tonight. I think the Colts could pull off the upset. Buckner's back. So, a lot of fantasy matchups on the line and the Niners season. So looking forward to Monday Night Football.
The most incredible nights in fantasy are when you need something like, okay, I need Christian McCaffrey to score more than 16 and a half, but definitely less than 25 and a half, right? And you're like hoping for them to hit a window. Is it like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's like I said, it's so convoluted, and most of them involve multiple players. A lot of Eddie Pinheiro tonight, and Niners defense, but very much, and Purdy in a couple matchups too. So really, there is. I've been boring the last few weeks here, saying I don't have much on the line on Monday night, but man, I have a lot of fantasy semifinals really coming down to this game. And then again, the fact that the Niners, they already clinched a playoff berth. Hopefully that doesn't, have them relaxed here, because man, the 1 seed would be just outrageous given the season they've had.
It is.
And then the Bears next week. Week.
Both of our real life teams.
Yeah.
Just clinched playoff berths on
wild,
a crazy loss by Detroit.
Saturday night, I was at a Christmas party, and I was like barely the only person outside watching the game. I'm like, what are all you people doing? I missed the onside kick. Crazy. Caleb. A guy did come out I was happened to be facing, and Caleb threw those 2 touchdowns, and he wasn't doing much until those 2 TDs. And then, of course, I was facing DJ Moore and another. So very conflicted, but happy for your Bears. And I'm the type of guy who thinks about things survivor-wise. And I like facing teams coming off, especially overtime and emotional wins. So maybe that'll counter your extra day's rest against my Niners on this Sunday night primetime game. And you're not going? Are you cowardly not coming to see me and go? I have a ticket for you. I have lodging if you want. Come on.
I don't feel like it has, I mean, it still has high stakes. I will give it that. Like, division is in sight. The number 1 seed is technically in play. It does matter, but I am the odd circumstances around me right now, the unusual environment. I'm in my in-laws' basement right now. This is where we traditionally go. I'm just outside of Sarasota, and it just so happens that like my favorite football bar on earth is very near us, the Siesta Key Oyster Bar, and I think I'm going to go there over the weekend. I don't actually have much luck watching the Bears there, but I don't.
That's good to hear.
But I'm not going to get too wrapped up in that. I also I would say, that was really an emotional victory. Maybe it'll rattle them. Except this is all they do. They just won their 6th game this season. This is crazy. They just won their 6th game this season, in which they trailed with 2 minutes or less remaining, which is insane. That's like, I don't know. I think what the NFL had said that in like 40 years they couldn't find another team that had any such resume. It either makes them like a team of destiny, or it makes them one of the wildest flukes that has ever fluked. And please, that's a rhetorical, statement or question. Don't answer it. I don't need to hear what people think about that. But yeah, I mean, deeply satisfying that last week's win was against the Packers in a game in which Green Bay kind of collapsed as much as Chicago took it. That was pretty fun. Both teams really beaten up. I was delighted. This won't go away. This I will carry into the offseason. I am absolutely delighted that the game ended with Caleb Williams making one of the sickest throws that any of you have ever seen. And you know it. So like just sit with that. I mean,
he almost sailed that other one out of the end zone that was open to get there. But yes, that was a sick
the floater on
the
floater to tie it. Yeah, absolutely.
What a throw, what a dime to DJ Moore. That was sick. It was
a crazy throw. Shout out to anyone, by the way, who like started DJ Moore in that game. Cause he obviously the box score is great, right? He didn't have any of those points until the final play of the game, right? He had like a 12-point play at the end. You know, the catch goes for 50 plus.
And Loveland didn't do anything either. I mean, no one benefited, just the
No.
running game. That's why they're saying Sunday night, this over-under is 50.5 in the Niners. And both these teams just want to run. I mean, I see that actually being lower. And I make fun of you for not going, but really the laugh's going to be on me because there's a chance of rain. It shows cleared now, but it's going to be pouring all week long. And I'm really hoping it clears up because it could chance that there's rain also Sunday night. But all I'm hearing is you're saying the Bears are due for regression. So I like it.
I'm certainly not saying that. I'm saying the identity of this team is let the Niners have a lead with like 90 seconds to go and it's over. You're doomed. If it's one score,
Shanahan will
you're
figure out a
doomed.
way
It's
to
over.
do that. Yeah. Well, yeah. But anyway, actually, I'm excited. That's pretty sick. Our teams are fighting for the 1 seed.
It's crazy.
Obviously, the
It's
Bears can get it,
crazy.
right? I mean, the Niners, first of all, have to win tonight. That'll make it more important. Otherwise it's kind of boring, right? The only like playoffs that matter is the Panthers and Bucks in both conferences, unless the Colts win tonight. Man, it's pretty crazy that the Bears, the Bears of course could get the 1 seed because the Niners could then turn around and beat the Seahawks the next week, right? So yeah.
Let's just touch on tonight a little bit. Obviously, it's 49ers at Colts, a bunch of fantasy relevant assets in this game. Personally, I don't know. I have a couple situations going on, but what I really need is for Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey to just make it through this thing healthy. I need to get them to week 17. I have most of my like season-long fantasy leagues, traditional fantasy leagues, are kind of locked up.
Even as a Bears fan, you say that. Interesting.
Well, I can't have them. I'm not out here rooting for injuries. I'd love to beat teams at full strength. It's fine, but I can't. I can't have McCaffrey of all people, and actually Purdy too. I have quite a few Purdy teams that are still alive. Quite a few. Like I have so many teams still alive, but I have a few of them have Purdy. I can't be losing him right now.
Yeah.
I also can't have Tyler Warren. We were talking about this before we started. I cannot have Tyler Warren like having a game tonight. I have like one particular best ball contest that I'm really eyeing where it's a DraftKings contest and I'm loaded. I don't have any margin for error. Like I'm down to like my last healthy players at pretty much each spot, but they feel like the right players. So I'm not that worried about Tyler Warren because it's this Phillip Rivers led Colts offense, right? Last week they somehow nearly won at Seattle, but we also got confirmation that Rivers he's going to get the ball out in like half a second, and he just simply can't throw downfield. He had 2 pass attempts that traveled more than 20 yards last week, and one was merely incomplete, and the other was intercepted, and it's just not going to be part of their offense. Not a lot of arm left, so I'm not terribly worried about the Colts passing game. I don't know. Should I feel differently about that?
So the Niners are getting a bunch of guys back on defense, but this is a team that just let the Titans have the highest success rate on the ground of any game in the NFL season last week. And they've been kind of a solid magician, bend, don't break, play well in the red zone defense, missing, their horses. So this is a convoluted way of me saying Niners defense is not great. And I could see indoors, the Colts are coached well and come up with screens and whatnot. But yeah, Warren, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm hoping he doesn't blow up. But what we just saw, Rivers is not a functionable offense moving forward. Just keeping it all underneath. But I'm open to anything, and maybe it's just the pessimistic side of the fandom in me worried about tonight. But hopefully Saleh got tape on this version of Rivers. I know there's a lot of tape on the previous version, and has a game plan that it just makes it so tough. And the Colts are just going to try to feed Taylor 30 touches.
Yeah, they gave him 28 last week. Are the Niners still? I believe the Niners are still stuck on like 16 sacks for this season.
Very
Right?
low pressure rate. They were last in the league last I looked. Yeah, it's really not a great defense. It's just kind of like Belichick back in a lot of those New England teams are just the best once inside the 20. They just bend, don't break. And I'm hoping that's what Saleh can kind of put together here, a Niners version of that, because, horrible pressure rate can be ran on. So again, though, they are getting healthier though tonight. They are getting some guys back.
They also Phillip Rivers is going to throw the ball within a second. Like you're not going to, I don't think you're going to, that was part of my thinking last week with Seattle was, oh man, I'm going to get 1 million sacks. Well, no, he receives the ball and the ball's gone. To Phillip Rivers' credit, he knows what he is and what he isn't at this stage, I think. Right. And that ball is coming out. So I don't,
and he knows how to diagnose defenses, so he's not getting totally confused, and he's shotgun a lot. And you're right, just like Aaron Rodgers, they're just getting the ball out so quick. So it is tricky when you look at those. I'm with you. I paid up in DFS last week with Seattle, but we were wrong.
Yeah, I got nothing out of them. In fact, I'd had them locked up in a couple of different leagues, thinking, oh man, this is my 20-point week from a defense. I don't even need to worry about what I'm getting anywhere else. But no, nothing. So I don't think that's happening. But fun. I don't know. Fun game. Another look at Phillip Rivers, which has been a fun story, if also kind of a nightmare. If you've do you have? I don't know. We're not, it's not week 8 anymore. So there's a good chance that if you've been leaning on Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, whatever, you're done. So do you have any teams left with those guys? Do you have any teams left with Warren? I have one left with Warren. I started Waller over him this week.
Yeah, exactly. If I did have Warren, I tried to do exactly a move like that, or I've replaced him with Fannin by now. So no, it's nothing on the Colts passing side. It's all Jonathan Taylor. And then one other note in this game, it's Buckner revenge game. He's off IR, he's back, and that could be a problem for those hoping CMC blows up. They have not had great success on the ground, but of course he could catch 10 balls.
Steven, come join me next weekend at Siesta Key Oyster Bar. Good time. Thank you for checking in. Thank you guys for watching. What else? Let's talk some of the injuries from this past week, because there are some notable situations. We should probably start with DK Metcalf, right? Suspended 2 games for a confrontation with a fan. Apparently not his first confrontation with this specific fan. So at some level, there's I don't know the full details of the story. I don't know if anybody does other than DK and this weirdo. But I don't know. Don't engage with a fan. Don't engage with trolls. Generally, you don't need to. It got messy. I don't think it's wrong that he was suspended for the next 2 games. It makes Pittsburgh's receiving core even weirder. I mean, it was already pretty weird, and had a bunch of tight ends, and they're throwing the heck out of the ball to Kenny Gainwell, which doesn't, if you told me start of the season, oh yeah, this is going to be all tight ends and Kenny Gainwell and Scotty Miller's going to pop up, and Adam Thielen, who doesn't know the playbook, is going to pop up. They're probably, I don't know, Alan Lazard is kicking around out there. They're probably going to sign him. He's an Aaron Rodgers favorite. We got MVS. But we can't touch any of these guys in the fantasy championship, right?
No, and I think the matchups are like Cleveland or the Ravens. Yeah. The only thing here would be if you're desperate for a $3,100 receiver on DraftKings or something, I will look at that. Maybe a Calvin Austin. I don't know how injured he is, but all that offense runs through its running backs and tight ends anyway. I mean, the tight end the running back use is out of control there. Rough game for Metcalf and a great matchup. A lot of people used him in DFS, including myself. He, after that altercation, suffered a bad drop immediately after. Yep. He had a touchdown later nullified by penalty. Just it's not great. He's deserved the suspension, assaulting the fan, of course, and he's going to serve that even though he's appealing it. But I will say this, there's new footage has emerged, and people are saying that, it's not what DK, it's not what he said happened. You can't hear a thing that is said between the two of them. So I'm definitely leaving that to, I don't know what happened as far as that altercation. People are making these proclamations, and I'm like, dude, you can't tell at all what just happened there. But tough situation for Pittsburgh, who got great. They're obviously the favorite to make it in over Baltimore over last weekend. So maybe they can afford for him to miss the final 2 games, and they'll just, go after Gainwell, who I think he ranked 4th in the league or 5th in the league in catches over the last 6 weeks before this last week. He's just been PPR cheat code, and he was obviously free at draft tables. So That was a fun game though, and the wildest finish of any game I can remember, like ever. I don't want to play recency effect, but I mean, they were going to say that was a good touchdown for Goff rushing it in, if not for the penalty. Just crazy stuff. And the play before
Which
that was
also wild because Amon-Ra got pushed back like, I don't know, several yards, 5 yards,
yeah,
quite a ways. Like
yes,
it was wild that they kept that play live. Also, like I don't know, almost just pure trolling by the official who basically made the announcement to the crowd and began the announcement with the ruling on the field as a touchdown.
that was trolling.
My God.
Yeah.
And then just deafening roar. And then he says all the things that negate the touchdown, like just a crazy play. And like the minutes of debate that led up to it were wild as well. I don't know. You'll see something like that like once every 5 years. That was absolutely crazy. And to end a game, really wild. Other injuries, the nastiest of them, probably Quinshon Judkins, right? He goes down with a similar injury to what we saw Cam Skattebo suffer earlier in the year. It's a dislocated ankle. It's a fractured fibula. They're talking up to 6 months. So I don't know. He's a running back though, right? Like this is tough. It's a brutal injury. Hopefully he's able to make it back by the start of next season, and hopefully he's not a diminished player when he returns. But it was a really really ugly injury. The short term there, the beneficiaries, again, these are not necessarily players that I would want to roll out in a championship lineup. In fact, the waiver wire, I mean, I already wrote the waiver wire article. I was writing it on Sunday. It's terrible. And there's nobody out there short of like, maybe you could squint a little and start Chris Rodriguez against the Dallas Cowboys, but he's a little bit over 50% rostered. So, I just tossed him in because he was a name I felt comfortable with. Maybe you could play Michael Carter, who's also close to 50% rostered against Cincinnati, strictly because of the matchup. But like outside of those two guys and like Taysom Hill, that was wild. There's just not a lot on the waiver wire this week. There aren't easy answers. So it is definitely like a start your guys. Don't look to the free agent pool for answers. But anyway, the beneficiaries of this terrible injury to Judkins would be either Dylan Sampson if he can play. He's missed time with like calf and hand injuries, or Raheem Sanders, who was fine against in a relatively friendly matchup against Buffalo. Other injuries. Travion Henderson, that had I think they're still just calling it a head injury. That had to be a concussion. It looked terrible. He slammed his head against the turf last night. Ramondre Stevenson, the obvious beneficiary there. Lamar Jackson with a back injury that, I don't know, if you've ever had back pain and you can see that on somebody's face, that man was not comfortable. There were reports that he either couldn't tie his shoes after the game, had a really difficult time doing it. Like he looked very uncomfortable. So obviously the NFL has some stuff to help you manage pain. I don't know if it's going to be that simple in this case. So he's a big question mark. Tyler Huntley, obviously the backup, and I don't know, he can maybe be 60% of what you'd expect from Lamar, but that's a rough one. Jordan Love, a concussion. Malik Willis would be the beneficiary there, but and it's pretty sick actually how Matt LaFleur has like designed a whole second offense that totally works with Malik Willis. But he also picked up an injury. He's got a shoulder injury. So we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like for Green Bay just yet. Everybody saw Josh Jacobs this weekend. That is not the normal Josh Jacobs. He's under normal circumstances, when healthy, a much more effective runner than that. He didn't practice all last week. He's got a knee issue. He was on crutches like last Monday. So I don't know if he's going to be able to go. It's Emmanuel Wilson if he can't. Woody Marks missed this last week. Jahar Jordan was pretty, I don't know. I thought he looked better than the box score, actually, what I saw of the game. I think that guy is pretty, I don't know. We've seen the explosion a couple weeks ago. He's certainly a tenacious runner. The Texans certainly like him because they played him basically ahead of Nick Chubb. What else? Amon-Ra St. Brown missed practice today. That's a knee. I'm not terribly worried yet. Obviously, he was fully functional during the game, so this could just be rest and maintenance in a short week. Josh Allen picked up a foot issue, but he played through it. J.J. McCarthy, a hand. Marcus Mariota, a medley of injuries. Gardner Minshew, a knee that we thought was going to be super serious and is somewhat less serious, but he's still on IR, not going to play. Not a lot of easy answers at quarterback on the wire, I would say. Tyler Shuck. This is like 4 straight games with 20 plus fantasy points for Tyler Shuck. So he seems like a playable fantasy asset. I mentioned Taysom Hill. Like, I feel like such an idiot for not seeing that the answer to Evan Hull versus Audric Estime was definitely going to be Taysom Hill, especially in what may very well be Taysom Hill's last home game in New Orleans.
Yeah, where was that report before the game?
That would have been great, right? Would have been great to hear before the game if that was so well known that that Taysom Hill was going to be the absolute centerpiece of the offense. That would have been wonderful. But it was like the full combo platter from Taysom Hill, right? A bunch of receptions, bunch of carries. He dominated the backfield work, and then he throws the touchdown.
Best pass of the game. Yeah, best pass of the game.
Easily. Yeah. I don't know. Anything on the wire that I missed? Anything you want to highlight?
A few thoughts, yeah. So Amon-Ra St. Brown plays Christmas Day, so that's nice. At least it will know right away, so there'll be no worry there. Although he faces the Vikings pass defense that has not allowed a passing touchdown in 6 games, which is just crazy. And then the question,
the Giants were like, "We're not even going to try. We're not even going to try." To pass. Like it's the last thing they wanted to do was pass.
Yeah, 2 yards at halftime, I believe. The Ravens and Packer game Saturday night, so hopefully we'll get some clarity on Lamar and Love before the weekend games. Judkins I had on my longest running home league. That's brutal because I have like no backup for my RB2 spot, and I did make the championship. Definitely I don't see a replacement there against a Pittsburgh team this week that just held Jahmyr Gibbs to 2 rushing yards. And the last thought I have is if my guy Henderson, who definitely might have eliminated me single-handedly in 2 leagues last night, if he's out, Ramondre Stevenson is going to be a top 20-ish back in my rankings this week against the Jets defense. Yes, they didn't get torn up by Hull and Estime last week, but don't forget they were the worst in the league the previous 5 weeks since they traded Quinn Williams. That run defense is getting annihilated. They had allowed 6 RB1s over the previous 5 weeks. 6 RB1s in over 5 weeks before, facing this Saints team down to their running backs 4 and 5. So Ramondre Stevenson, a game script should be, amazing against the Jets. So he could be like, he could finish as an RB1 easily this week if Henderson's out.
Yeah, I already did the ranks this week, and I think I stuck Ramondre at like RB14. I'm just assuming that Henderson isn't going to go. He might. I'm in the same boat with you. Like I had a team that was really good in some of the yacht club enthusiasts will know the league that I'm talking about. It's called Large, and Chris and I have been in it for decades. And my team's great, and it had the Joe Burrow week. It had that going for it, but otherwise it had Josh Jacobs, and it had Quinshon Judkins, and it had Travion Henderson, and it had Trey McBride in the one bad week that he has had this year, basically, and now he's facing Cincinnati, and I don't get to enjoy it in the finals.
16 straight games, 5+ catches, tight end NFL record, and then just 4. Yeah. The volume wasn't there as usual for Brissett. That was Falcons had 4 different drives, 10+ plays. No one got. I guess Wilson did on that amazing catch, but yeah, McBride. Go back to him in DFS this week. Obviously, he'll be very popular, but man, this after coming off that game and now facing the Bengals, who hopefully people forgot about how bad they've been against tight ends because the last 2 weeks they haven't, but I don't think that's going to be a secret. Yeah, McBride is going to go nuts this week.
Yeah, if the Bengals don't give up another stat to tight ends, they're still going to finish as the most generous defense to tight ends. Like they're just a mile beyond where anybody else is. I want to, before we take a couple questions, I want to just highlight something that you were getting at. Like we have a wild schedule this week, and it's championship week, and I'm sure people know about it, but like I just want to underscore we have 3 games on Christmas. We have 3 games on Thursday. It's Dallas, Washington, Detroit, Minnesota, Denver, Kansas City, right? And then we have 2 games on Saturday, Houston and the Chargers. We got Baltimore and Green Bay. So like there's 10 teams will have played before Sunday rolls around. So like somebody's going to be winning and losing your championship week matchup. So like you got to. What I'm saying is lock in now, because you want to have like Christmas Eve with the family or whatever. You don't want to be busy on your phone. Lock in right now, and let's get some of these lineups set. We have some other news that we can talk about later, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm sure we get a couple of questions here. Here's a lengthy one. Embarrassed to ask, but I was a Mahomes owner in a deep super flex. Somehow made it to the finals. Discuss these superflex options: Rivers, Huntley, oh man, Malik, Josh Johnson. Or I'll just tell you, I would not, after the glimpse that we saw of Brosmer earlier this year, There's just no way. I know he's throwing to Justin Jefferson. I know he's throwing to Jordan Addison. I'm just simply not going to do it. Um, I don't know the state of Malik Willis right now, right? Like, again, he picked up a bit of an injury issue last week as well. I think of all these guys, I feel best about, man, Rivers has good weapons, but I probably feel best about Huntley because I'm probably getting 50 rushing yards there, and he's got the same cast of characters to throw to that Lamar did. I don't know. How do you feel about this? I don't know if it's going to be Josh Johnson or Marcus Mariota. Like, that's a wild up in the air situation too.
I like this question.
And Johnson looked terrible. Johnson was like funny bad.
I like this question because I have been going over my early ranks as well, and that was part of what I do before you look at the consensus is I just look at the Vegas lines, and some of them are very different than what consensus has there. And Josh Johnson and Malik Willis, to me, jump out there. The Commanders and Packers definitely projected to score more points than the other options there. Brosmer, definitely you could see it indoors at home against the Lions, but I would go after the guys that can also run, and that is Johnson and Malik Willis here. And I'm going to have to make this decision myself because I shockingly had Minshew in a couple leagues that I advanced in Superflex. So I'm
oh my gosh.
Like, I know. It was a weird week. I saw some matchups for low scoring. It was I'm in a defensive battle, even in like a dynasty with big rosters that theoretically should have all-star teams. Some defensive battles this weekend. But yeah, this is a good question, and let's ask later on in the week. But my early instinct is Josh Johnson or Malik Willis, who runs and in good systems. And Johnson's facing the Dallas, right? Herbert was doing nothing for 6 weeks, and then he was a QB1. I mean, that is just the best matchup.
Yeah. Johnson really looked, I don't know. Johnson looked indecisive, utterly unfamiliar with anything the team.
And he's been around forever. Didn't Harbaugh coach him in San Diego State? I mean, that is a long career. But I will say this: he can practice now with the ones. Yeah. And I also believe I read before we started recording that they elevated a quarterback. Signs are that I don't know if Mariota will be available. So I hear you though. Johnson might be so. Maybe athleticism's gone and the rushing's not there because I like Malik Willis with that coaching and how much they're going to run. So let's
That's actually so this is one of those questions where I think what I would set right now might be a little different from what I would set if we actually get to game time. Like if I just had to lock it in now, I'd probably want Huntley on the roster. I don't know how this is going to go with Lamar. Maybe Lamar plays. He did not seem close to returning in that game, and as soon as he went to the sideline, you just kind of knew. But if we get a green light on Malik Willis health wise, I think it's crazy that Matt LaFleur has he almost seems to enjoy coaching Malik Willis and calling that offense maybe more than he does their usual offense with Jordan Love, right? It's fun, a lot of designed runs for him, very run heavy, which in fantasy that's going to work for Willis because he's good at it, annoyingly good at it. He picked up a handful of first downs against the Bears that would have been just drive enders if Jordan Love was at quarterback. I'm not to say that Jordan Love isn't obviously better than Malik Willis, but they have a very effective offense with him. So I would actually lean Willis if we get a clean bill of health on him.
And Jacobs is banged up. That could help more rushing. I have them back to back, very, very preliminary. But if you flip these matchups, it'd be an obvious no brainer. But you're talking against the Ravens D versus Dallas, so I think this is a close one.
Yeah, so here's another question. With that being said about Rivers, should we play the Jags defense versus him in championship week or go for a bad defense on waivers that's playing a backup QB?
Not a great defense week, right? Doesn't feel, the Saints were great for people, but I don't really see sneaky ones. And I've been relying on the Eagles in a few leagues, and at Buffalo is just a nightmare matchup. So you tell me a sneaky. Do you see any sneaky ads this week? I mean, I don't know. Tennessee at home against New Orleans? I don't know.
Yeah, the trouble is finding one that's really widely available.
That's why I went.
I actually think, I also feel like Tennessee and New Orleans could be. I don't know what the early line is in that game, but that could be kind of a sneaky shootout. Cam Ward's playing pretty well. Tyler Shuck is playing well enough. And he's been relatively consistent. There can be turnovers there. So New Orleans is one of those teams that I had queued up for this one, and now I feel kind of dumb about it because Tennessee just wants to run a ton,
Yeah.
and Cam Ward's playing pretty well. So I don't know.
39 and a half.
That.
So you should go to Vegas, Andy. That low.
Oh,
39 and a half.
yeah. I actually might bet that. Like that, I don't know. That feels like a game where we could see a real point total.
You know, a guy who I did jump 10 spots at, like Pollard was like the 26th back that showed up in my ranks, and I moved immediately to like 15th. 100 yards, 3 straight weeks. He had a touchdown run called back last week for a silly penalty that didn't affect it. He was stopped at the 1, doing that against tough run defenses. And not that the Saints are a pushover run defense by any means, but I don't know. He just looks like he's on a roll, and now that an actual game script in which they could be leading. So I like Pollard. I belongs in all lineups this in championship if he's somehow on your team. I mean, he did nothing for the first 13 weeks.
Yeah, I think I feel like question. I feel like tonight's game is gonna
will help us learn more information for sure.
Yeah, you need this input on Phillip Rivers and exactly what this looks like, because obviously it was not impressive last week, but it was unimpressive in a way that didn't do much for the opposing fantasy defense, right? Like he's not going to get sacked if he gets the ball out within a second of receiving it, and for better or worse. And we only had the 1 interception last week, and that was on a rare attempt downfield, which I don't think is going to be part of the regular game plan. So we'll see. I wouldn't expect a lot of dropbacks, and I wouldn't expect a ton of sacks. And usually, like when we're streaming defenses in fantasy, we're really just chasing dropbacks. And so it could end up that the right answer is one of the stupid defenses, like in that Arizona-Cincinnati game. I wouldn't do it because they aren't good defenses, but like usually scoring just sort of follows the teams that, are dropping back 50 times, 45 times.
Yeah. I agree with you. Just wait until we'll see what happens tonight, and we'll know more information there. But it is definitely a tricky defensive week, and it would be much better if Jacksonville were at home than opposed to in the dome next week against the Colts.
Yeah, we have another question on Lamar. I mean, I hope Lamar plays. I didn't put him in the initial ranks. Maybe I should. Maybe I should be more optimistic about it. He looked so immobile. And again, he's got a full week. He's young. The NFL has drugs. They might be able to get him serviceable for this one. I also feel like, if Lamar plays, so disappointing, because the Patriots game was like they opened with Lamar having a couple of designed runs, and there haven't been Chris and I talked about this last week. There have not been a ton of designed runs for Lamar while he's gone through this, just whatever, this crazy series of small injuries over the last, 2 months since the hamstring. There just haven't been a lot of design runs for him. And then there were a couple of early ones against the Patriots, and he got hurt on one of them. So that's out the window. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't scramble and he wouldn't still run for you, but the idea that they're going to design anything, I think, is pretty much out the window.
Normally, I don't pay too much attention to GPS stuff, but I had heard that Lamar had been very lower than his standard playing through this injury until like the week before last. It looked like he was getting healthier, and he actually maybe was finally feeling a little better. And now, of course, this happens, which sucks. Yeah, rough year for Lamar all around, man. It sounds like people are now calling for Harbaugh to be gone. If we circle back to week 1. That halftime or whatever, when they were just blowing out the Bills, I had multiple texts from people just saying the NFL season's over. I mean, the Ravens looked like the clear class, and I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I felt good, pat myself on the back. I mean, just a disaster.
Also, at the time Lamar suffered the original injury, the hamstring, a million years ago. He was the top scoring quarterback.
He was the first 3 weeks. Yeah.
Basis.
I went back and looked at that. I did not even remember that. It was by like 5 points per game or something.
Yeah. He was dominating the position. You were like, oh, that was, that, 2-time MVP is the right answer again. And he really seemed like the right answer until he wasn't. Yeah. Stafford, getting epidural injections, playing the whole season. Ravens need a win. Yeah. This is probably happening. This is probably the scenario that we're getting, and he's probably gonna be as drugged up as he possibly can to get on the field in an absolute must-win scenario. I like this question because it harkens back to the fact that we were petrified about Matthew Stafford in early September. The back injury was probably the best fantasy team that I am taking to a fantasy championship is in that Vegas Flex League, and I got a bunch of the right guys at like wide receiver and running back, right? I've got Puka and JSN on that team. It is a very good team, but the design of that team was I'm going to be the last person to take any quarterback, and I'm probably going to get the last two. And the last two turned out to be Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, and I was kicking myself at the end of that draft because I was like, how did I let it get to this point? How am I the one who got stuck with Matthew Stafford? And no one wanted him. He might have gone for $3. He might have gone for $1. I don't know what it was.
Garoppolo probably went for as much at that point. I know.
And that's the other thing. I immediately added Jimmy Garoppolo because I was like, well, there's no way Stafford's getting through this season. He's, we're lucky if he gets through September. Yeah, crazy.
Now I have a lower back injury and it's persisted for a year, and I figured, no one ever used to have a bad back like Harmon used to say, and apparently it's not the case if you're Stafford, who's MVP. I guess Drake May got closer to MVP, but Allen fell to a distant like 25-1, so it's a 2-horse race for that MVP.
Yeah, I feel like the Rams could collapse over the next 2 weeks, but it seems weird to say that in a loss. I think Stafford locked it up, but man, 400 plus yards in the first 3 touchdown game against Seattle's defense all season. That loss was very much not on him. I thought it was super impressive to do that without Devontae. If he strings together a couple of decent weeks without Devontae, they get some wins here. I feel like it's over. It's also, there's like a lifetime achievement aspect to it that I think will go to Stafford. So I wouldn't declare it over, but I think he is the very clear favorite.
A real close friend of mine shot me a text right before the Thursday night game, and he said Stafford or Dart. And the weather was out there. I looked at the wisdom of the crowd. Stafford was QB 18. Dart was like QB 14. I was leaning Dart. I know Minnesota hasn't let a passing touchdown in 6 weeks, but Dart was still running even though the design runs weren't there. And I said, oh, Dart, Stafford finishes at QB2 and Dart might have been the QB 33 or something this week. I didn't look, but it was as bad as it gets, that decision. I hope it didn't cost him his matchup, but that's bad advice.
Shout out to Chris Harris who crushed me on last Wednesday's podcast for having Stafford at like QB 12, QB.
Well, that's better
13,
than you killed it then, because the market had him at 18.
Right. I was well ahead of it. In fact, we ended the podcast and like a day later, I was like, man, am I really a crazy outlier on Stafford? And, Chris was like, oh, he's my QB3. You shouldn't.
Well,
and I also felt like I ranked him in a spot where like, if I rank you at the bottom of the QB1s, I'm not screaming at you to find an alternative, right? That's not like you must sit this guy. Yeah. That's just like, I don't like this setup. This is a great defense. He very recently threw for only 130 yards against this defense, but also he's Matthew Stafford, whatever. So I have him at like QB 12, QB 13, and it turns out I was a huge outlier in terms of my bullishness. That did surprise me a little bit. Like, I don't know. Clearly at this point, a healthy Matt Stafford is not going to have a week where he finishes as QB 17.
Yeah, I know. And overrating the Adams. Adams gets like 30 yards a game. Yeah, he can find another way to score down there, but and then overrate the wind, it's more often than not that stuff gets overblown. No pun intended.
This, before I hit another question, like this is a good thing to talk about this week because we have a couple of like potential weather games. I think maybe the worst one, whatever, we're a week out. Who knows? But Buffalo and Philadelphia, they're talking like 40-mile-an-hour gusts. They're talking like rain and sleet at some point.
When it gets that I will listen to. You tell me 40-mile-an-hour wind, then that's.
But
that's
then
good.
We're also coming off a week in which like the wind in Chicago was as bad as I've seen in any stadium all year. Right? It was not just moving the flags on the goalposts; it was moving the goalposts. Right? The goalposts were wobbling back and forth. It was actually brutal. Like pretty clearly 20, 30 mile an hour sustained winds in that one. And Caleb threw the best ball I've ever seen, 57 yards, and just an absolute dot to DJ Moore. So like really good quarterbacks, people of like Josh Allen quality can cut through that. I don't know. I don't make very many start sit decisions on weather, like based solely on weather anymore, but you really only get my attention when we're talking about extreme winds.
Yeah, not like McVay can't dial up a bunch of screens, that make it work, close. He knows the weather as well. But yes, that was, it scared a lot of people. I mean, if they're pushing
Yeah.
Stafford down that far, and it was just a clear mistake. I mean, he just out there with playing catch with Puka Nakua.
I think to answer the question that's actually on the screen right now, I think it would probably take 50 pass attempts from Philip, like legit 50 pass attempts from Philip Rivers, and like 2 of them are plays that Jonathan Taylor just pops, like they're behind the line of scrimmage and Taylor just pops them. Like 300 yards is almost feels like an impossibility.
You guys are trying to mush my Niners, totally trying to jinx me here.
Started Burrow, not Brissett. Oh, that's good. You wish you listened to me. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Burrow obviously a massive game, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns against Miami hasn't been a pushover defense all year, but like once they're eliminated after the weirdest week in the franchises in a while for that franchise, they have a few weird weeks, but Burrow was going to put up a number. And like I wrote about it in The Athletic this last week. I was getting a fair number of questions about Burrow, and he had obviously said some things that made people question whether does he even want to play anymore? Is he going the Andrew Luck route? What is happening here? Does he want to get traded? I really think the right answer, and I wish I would have said this more to like the deep shot crowd. Joe Burrow just gives really good press conferences and actually gives really honest, thoughtful answers. And as I understand it, he can be a somewhat difficult interview, but that's because he's kind of meticulous and he really considers a question. He gives like a non-cliche answer. And I think that's what he was doing in those press conferences. And people, whatever, it blew up nationally as if it was some sort of controversy. That's just how he answers stuff. He's just honest and he's a different voice. And he was always going to destroy Miami, and he's going to destroy Arizona too.
And I've been telling you that Miami run defense has improved lately, so it's a good setup for the quarterback. And he has another great setup at home against Arizona. Garrett Williams, their cornerback, just went on IR. Stafford, yeah. One counter I'll have to you is I guess Jamar Chase even went out of his way to be like, ooh, I don't like the way he's sounding, and I'm going to talk to him. And he's been with them since LSU.
Yeah.
So but I hear you, and clearly he went out there and just dominated. He looked great. So good. I'm glad. Happy to see.
One of the things I linked to in The Athletic was, in the same press conference where he gave the original, like, oh gosh, am I having fun? I only want to do this if I'm having fun. Is it worth it? Where he gave those comments. He also spoke for 2 minutes about Pokemon in an absolutely delightful way. Like it wasn't all doom and gloom. Not that I expect anybody. I don't do this. Not that I expect anyone else to do it. Like nobody's out there watching full press conferences unless you're a beat reporter covering the team. But like he wasn't actually that down. If you watch like the extended cut, the director's cut, if you will. Here's honestly, this is an essential question. If he plays in championship week, and congrats to you for getting through the semifinals with Josh Jacobs on the roster. I did not. Do you just got to play him? My options would be Michael Carter, Tyrone Tracy, or waiver wire fodder. So Tracy's look good. Michael Carter has the matchup. To me, this is going to depend on how the practice week goes. Like because what we just saw from Jacobs was him playing in a game in which he hadn't practiced all week, and he was like on crutches on Monday. If he doesn't practice all week and he's like, I'm going, the team needs me, I don't think I'm going to play him. And I think I'm really going to bump him down. If he actually returns to practice and puts in like a real session, and I am probably going to need a little bit of sunshine from beat writers before I feel okay plugging him into a lineup, or before I feel okay putting him in my top 20.
Looking at the consensus ranks that it shot out to me, that's funny, this question, because it literally has them back to back to back. Tracy RB20, Carter RB21, and Jacobs RB22. Of course, we're guessing on Jacobs' health there, but yeah, this would be a tough one that I would like to know more information before making that decision. But I could see Carter like bouncing back because he disappointed people there, but the role is still pretty good, and the Bengals remain susceptible there. So, but of course, the Raiders, pretty decent matchup too. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame you for benching Jacobs because he's clearly not healthy, and he's just the type of guy who will play through crazy injuries. Yeah. And I think his coach is trying to save him from himself and the risk of him just leaving too. I mean, I don't see the fact like the matchup with the Ravens is so much, it's harder actually than the other two matchups. So if I had to choose now, I would lean toward benching. I mean, Jacobs is far riskier than Carter or Tracy this week.
Yeah, that's probably right, and that's probably the direction we're headed. I don't want to put that out into the world necessarily because I just personally really like Josh Jacobs, even though he's a Packer.
I know you do. Yeah.
But man, you can't play the version of Josh Jacobs that we just saw, and so again, if the practice week goes the same way, I don't think you can play him. We have some people recommending defenses, and I think they're probably right about the Giants playing Geno. Like when Geno playing a game is generally, I mean, that's 3 sacks and 2 interceptions under normal circumstances. So that's not a terrible call. And of course, if they're available, the Lions D is weird because they're bad and banged up, and they got a guy, they got 2 guys basically, and they have some serious holes right now. But I'd want to pick on Brosmer. Yeah, I agree with that. Dalton, the people want to know if you have any money riding on this game.
Well, just my fantasy matchups. No money on. Oh, I take that back. I don't know my wife hear me, but she just because of the jinx, she'll say. But I did actually bet on them before the season. So yes, we're rooting for the Niners to get that 1 seed. I bet on them to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, in a sense, I do, but not on this game. No.
Oh my God. Final episode of the year. It's bittersweet, but I'm tired of having to skew analysis for my TD only league. See you guys next year. Oh yeah. I don't know how much TD only content you're going to get out of us. Probably not a ton. Not a lot of demand for it, except from you personally. But I admire your dedication to these settings. I admire your league's dedication to these settings. This is kind of a fantasy philosophy question. I don't know. You're in charge of you're the head of the rankings department at the Deep Shot, Dalton. You answer this question. How much do you factor in teams being eliminated from the playoffs? I will say I waited a little bit, especially when it just happens.
Yeah, you got to listen to the tea leaves and coaches and whatnot. There is what you have to do. That's tough, and it gets tricky for sure. And the extra week now with the fact we just said that basically the playoffs are set, but 2 teams, that's going to be interesting for sure. So a lot of that comes down to a guessing game. And yeah, absolutely. If there's any sort of tiebreaker, if one's a concern of playing time, then you use that as a tiebreaker. But yeah, it's something that you do have to factor in because playing time, I mean, absolutely with teams being eliminated could go different routes, go with the younger guys. People speculated the Chiefs are maybe going to do that. They didn't really, Jalen Royal or their Rashard Smith, but maybe at this point they will.
I don't even really know what they were doing with their backfield, but it seemed to tilt toward Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah. I don't know if they're just trying to determine whether they really want to try to run it back with Isaiah Pacheco for another year, or if they want to actually invest in the position this time. They didn't do it at the deadline. They didn't do it in the offseason. But that tilted back toward Pacheco. I mean, you can't start Chiefs in championship week. I don't want to make it seem like I'm recommending Pacheco.
None. Zero.
I wouldn't start Kelsey. I'd be super surprised, especially since they're playing on Christmas as well in a game that I'm sure everybody thought was going to be super meaningful. How can they put Rashee Rice on the field? They won't, will they?
No, I don't think so. Their point total is 11.5 right now. Same as the Raiders NFL right. Season low. The Chiefs, it shows you how this season's gone. But at home, mind you, too. Projected to score 11.5 points. The over-under in that game is 36.5.
How high is too high to rank Quinn Ewers for championship week? Well, we got a lot of scrubby quarterbacks out there. So, he's pretty close to the bottom end of the superflex potential plays, right? I don't know where I'm going to have him. Keep him 25-ish.
Yeah, if not higher. Yeah, Tampa Bay is one of the top 5 best pass funnel matchups. Yeah. I mean, he looked okay. In fact, I think he got more or as many yards as Tua has done that in 2 games or something this year. So sure, he'll be a fun superflex desperation play.
He also one of the things he's got going for him is that. They throw all these passes. Some of them are handoffs, some of them are passes. Yeah. All this stuff to Achane in the flat that Achane does all the work, and sometimes the quarterback gets credit for it. He can benefit from that. That has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with Tua, but he can benefit from those. We've seen it time and again. Achane is gonna make 1 or 2 plays every game that are just well, shoot, that's silly. That's a cartoon. So he is going to benefit from that. So that probably squeezes him into the, I don't
One
know,
thing
the
he won't
mid-20s.
benefit from is Tampa Bay scoring a lot of points because, man, I
Yeah.
felt dumb over the first month of the year, my take that they're going to take a big step back. But the loss of Cohen, I mean, maybe it's a Mayfield playing through injury, but they even have all their receivers back. And this offense ain't it. I mean, it is just
Yeah.
where are the screens? It is just a dramatic difference. And you look at what the Jacksonville's doing, their rushing attack. I mean, it's pretty stark. The coaching change really mattered.
All those cheap and easy yards on they were so effective in the screen game with Cohen as their coach, and those cheap and easy yards are gone. I honestly I thought Mike Evans would get dropped in there and it would unlock some stuff, right? And none of that has happened. Evans has been fine, but it's been pretty dismal for everybody else.
It really has. I mean, and then Irving gets taken out at the goal line. I mean, he's a trap. I mean, that's turned into a disaster.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got obviously I've got like something of a Bucky Irving fetish. I think he's great.
No, totally.
It is super frustrating to see them at the goal to go situations and Sean Tucker. Like I think Sean Tucker's fine. Sean Tucker should play somewhere. He just shouldn't be taking the most valuable because. Man, like they throw to Rashad White and Sean Tucker is taking all these goal line snaps, and I can't have Bucky Irving turn into like a between the 20s guy. But we're headed
total
there.
trap back. Yeah, not getting the targets or the goal line. I mean, it's the worst, and especially if the offense isn't any good. I mean, that's not an ideal combo.
We've seen him play well as obviously he's had some sensational moments as a receiver. Granted, this is not the most effective goal line runner in the league.
He's a beast. He's awesome. Receiver it out. We saw it all last year. He can do it all. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Some of his most thrilling highlights are as a receiver. So that is definitely a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
Here's one. This is a good question. How do we feel about Hampton as a flex against Houston in your championship? I certainly feel okay about it because Ashton Genty just had a supernova game against Houston. Didn't see it coming. Certainly didn't rank it that way. Had him ranked as like, I don't know, a flex, a scrubby RB2. Did not have him ranked as somebody that you should be plugging into your lineup against the Texans, and he went off. So I think I feel pretty good about this. Kamani Vidal picks up a neck injury this last week, so it's going to be like Hampton and a little bit of Hassan Haskins, and that's it.
Yeah, Hampton is a top 20 back this week, especially after the Vidal leaving with the injury. But Hampton was seeing increased work before Vidal left, so it looks like they are turning to him. That said, Houston had only the highest running back performance they'd given up was like 20.5 half PPR points until Genty scored 31 in a game. They had 11.5 point total. The Raiders had not run for 75 yards at a team in 9 straight games, an NFL record in the Super Bowl era. Just crazy to do that on the road. Genty is a special player, man. 2 touchdowns, 50+ yards, just killed me in a league. And I thought I'd written it down as 1, and then he dropped a near 40 burger on me in PPR. My point is, Houston still has a tough matchup for Hampton, but I think he's the guy, and you got to roll with him. But Hampton, I mean, but Genty could be like top 5 fantasy player next year if Vegas does a wholesale change. And I don't have any confidence in them doing that. Yeah. But you look at him, and it's just like crazy. I mean, just
there's
really
at least
impressive.
a chance that we're going to get a Genty surge at the these final few games of the season that makes his year look that makes
at
the
home
ADP
against the
look
Giants.
Okay, that makes it all look fine. Yeah,
he could easily finish his RB1 this week easily. That's the worst run defense in the league at home against the Giants. So yeah, he could go back to back RB1 performances here, and then the hype would be up. But I mean, he's just great. I mean. People question his long speed, but he's scoring from far. So, I mean, I don't know what his weakness is other than maybe pass protection, but he's awesome. And I really hope that he deserves better. And I hope they get a quarterback and a competent offense around him.
Yeah, I think it's pass protection, but like the team has overlooked that. He's on the field a ton. They don't use him in interesting ways as a receiver just yet, but I think he can catch. I mean, his weakness is the run blocking, right? Like that's his primary weakness, and that's not really on him. I don't have anything good to say here. Have to play Breece Hall in the championship if Travion is out. I mean, first draft of my ranks, I don't think I have Breece Hall in the top 30 at running back, which as a real life player, I probably view Breece Hall top 12, top 15. I mean, he's not in my top 30. I wouldn't touch him.
All right, I think you can use him. The Patriots have been getting annihilated since losing Milton Williams and what's that other guy's name? Robert Spillane. So I think they can get ran on with those injuries. He still gets most. Isaiah Davis has annoyingly getting some. I think he's okay looking at the options as like an RB 25-ish, 26-ish area if you have to go that route. But Andy might be right, and it's ugly, and it's been a disaster, and he hasn't helped your fantasy team in weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
They're,
I admire you getting through the
they're
Travion
12 and a half
situation.
point dogs, and Cook's not throwing to him. You're probably right. He's not even getting any targets from Cook is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cook has been brutal, and it's
Yeah, all
actually
right. Maybe I've talked myself out of this. I don't no matter how many injuries New England has, but that is one thing I'll say. There's been dramatic difference in their run defense, and Henry was running all over them. Weird that Henry didn't get a touch after that second touchdown run with 12:38 left, but that's just one thing I'll note. New England went from a dominant run defense to suddenly susceptible. And Hall can always break one run. He is awesome still, but
it feels like just a minute ago we were throwing out the fact that you're like, oh, New England still hasn't allowed a 50-yard rusher or
I know
something
things
like that.
change quick. I know.
Yeah.
You lose it. Yeah, I mean, the Browns, Malik Collins was apparently the important piece there to a run defense, or things change in weather and all that. But they went from the tough run defense to a top 3 matchup. I mean, that changed dramatically as well.
To Benson's point here, I kind of feel like what the Jets are doing right now is tanking. Like, there's no reason to continue looking at Brady Cook. This Brady Cook thing is not going to work. I honestly think that I don't know exactly how healthy either Justin Fields or Tyrod is, but I feel like they're in a situation where they don't want to risk a veteran quarterback accidentally winning a game for them.
Yeah, you see that Garrett Wilson hasn't caught a pass since October 12th, but he leads the Jets in receiving with 395 yards. They're the first team in NFL history to go 15 straight games without an interception. I'm not a huge EPA guy, but Cook's EPA this week was in the first percentile. That's not very good. Although I did learn there's a 0 percentile. Right. I did learn that there's a 0 percentile. Who is that? That was Shadur Sanders' average depth of target was 1.9 yards this last week. That's the 0th percentile.
His, I wish I could credit the source. I feel terrible that I can't. I'm not even sure where I read this or heard this, but his average depth of target on a completed pass this week was 0.8 yards. I think that was.
He did cut his finger up, and he was doing better before that.
Oh, it was gross.
Yeah, the guy stepped on his finger. It was gross, but that's still not exactly attacking downfield.
But that's also like that is, I know I talked about this a little bit, I think with Chris, on the Fantasy and Frames live stream too. Like, I thought the way the Bears played him was just so disrespectful and justified, but like, just go. You want to go downfield? Try it. They were defending, 5 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and not really beyond that. And I think that is the way to go against Shadur right now. And like, he it's college. But he was great at that in college, right? Like, he was a really good quick game quarterback, but that can't be your only trick. Not to say that he's very young, not to say that it's going to be his only trick, but that cannot be the only thing.
Yeah, he led Cleveland in rushing in his defense, and again that finger injury. But yes, that's just there's got to be some. He threw that one ball to Isaiah Bond. It kind of fluttered, but the last week he got a ball downfield. But 1.9 yards, and then the stat you said, I mean, that is unsustainable.
Yeah. What last thing I want to hit you with? It's not fantasy related. The Chiefs are leaving Arrowhead, which I don't know. I'm just sort of bummed about. Not that I've ever been there. Not that I'm a Chiefs guy. Yeah. But I do not like the disappearance of outdoor stadiums. And Arrowhead has always seemed like a fun atmosphere to me. The team has announced this doesn't happen until 2031, so this is not on the immediate horizon. With any luck, man, I'll be retired from the fantasy game by the time the Chiefs are in a domed stadium. But they are moving to a domed environment in Kansas. Number one, I think it's a little funny to move into a dome when Patrick Mahomes is in the final years of his career, which is basically what they're doing. Like, man, probably should have thought of that a few years ago. But I don't know. You have any thoughts on that? I don't like sitting in it as a fan, but I love watching a cold weather outdoor game on TV.
I do as a kid. Remember Marty Schottenheimer and a home field advantage being in Arrowhead, just big time. And I hear you. It's certainly nice when you're sitting on the couch too to watch the weather. And that news Yeah, surprised me as well, especially since they're changing cities. I don't know how the distance is there. It's kind of like a Niners situation. I'm sure people are surprised how far away their stadium actually is from San Francisco. But the whole
Yeah.
indoor outdoor thing, yeah, I know it's aesthetically pleasing on HD to watch, snow and inclement weather for sure. No argument here.
I'm going to give Benson the final word because
Yeah.
Benson, not a big Chiefs fan, moving into the new Paper Champ Palace. I don't think that's actually what they're calling it, Benson, but shout out to you. Thank you guys. That's going to do it.
Yeah, thanks.
This
Flew
was a
by.
blast. We're going to do this again next week. Happy holidays to you, Dalton, to everybody watching, to all the subscribers. You guys are the best. Thanks.
Happy holidays. Cheers.